the one, the only, Bencio
Good morning and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube, ideally speaking, as we start another week of this book, 10 Dumb Mistakes That Really Smart Couples Make. This chapter is titled Tools That Bond. Really, the main thrust of this chapter is talk about intimacy, which he talks more extensively in the second half. The first half is really an introduction to intimacy, but in terms of describing what a human being is like, if you're reading this, you probably think it's straight out of some Musar book or some Kabbalah book. Talk about the two aspects of a person: the aspect of the physical nature of the person, the animalistic nature of the person, and also the spiritual, the neshama, the spiritual nature of the person. He says those combine together to form the I, who you are. And our goal in life is really, as he says pretty much very clearly over here, is to be an angel wearing the form of a man. We're supposed to be an angel. Well, to look on the outside like a man. Basically, to harness the spiritual side is used through the prism of the Torah. The Torah tells us how to harness that animalistic side by the spiritual side. The side that should control you is your spiritual side. The animalistic side should only be used to do the mitzvahs of the Torah. I don't fully agree with this. I don't think this is true at all. I think the main part of the person is the animalistic side. I think that's who you are. You really are. A person really is his body. That's who you really are. You know, the decision making you make is part of your body. I mean, it relates to your body. All decisions are physical decisions. Those are the decisions we have to make in life. Almost all of them are physical decisions. You know, the gift of spirituality is just b'chir chavshus, freedom of the mind to choose. That's what spirituality comes down to, if you really think about it. Spirituality, you know, there's many different ways people look at spirituality. Some people are religious, some people aren't religious, some people have morals, some people have ethics. There's different things that guide people's choices depending on where they grew up, what family they were born into, what country they're from. You know, everyone has their own set. That's what makes a human being human. It's the free choice. You know, not necessarily you're born into a Haredi family, so you learn Torah your whole life, so you get more reward than someone who was born into an Indian family in India. No, you don't. You don't. To the extent that you use your free will to make the right decisions. The Torah pretty much summarizes. The Torah says, "Vasisa yasher v'atov." In Dvarim, it says many times, you're supposed to do things that are good, that are enjoyable. Tov. Tov is enjoyable things, and it's supposed to be a fair person at the same time. I always say, the epitome of the Torah is to be what, you know, Greek philosophy calls Epicureanism. Epicureanism is basically to enjoy the world, but do it in a dignified and distinguished and noble way. You know, to basically have good manners, good etiquette. That's really all the Torah is. That's really what the Torah wants to teach you. We don't fully understand the mitzvahs of the Torah right now. We only understand them on a homiletical level. We don't understand them, the real sod. When Mashiach comes, we will understand them. That's really what the Torah essentially is. So, even though the author says that the utmost level of spirituality is an angel wearing the form of a man. He mentions this many times, that we should be an angel. Really, we should be inside an angel, but look outside like a man. I totally disagree with that. I think that's not true at all. We should be a person, an animalistic person. That's what we are. We're a physical body. However, we use our ethics, our morals, spirituality, whatever you want to call it, in order to be a fair person. There's people that are not fair. You know, there's plenty of people who are religious, and they're not fair. For example, I remember many years ago, I was going, I was in yeshiva. We were going to some friend's l'chaim or whatever engagement party, and we were all going in a taxi the way back home or something. It was a tender, it was a big van, but there was only room for like 15 people, and there were like 17 people. So I remember there's a big rush at the end to get the 15 seats. So I think I was in the van. I said, listen, you know, 2 people are excluded. We're all part of this same yeshiva. Why did everyone want to get into the van? Because it's cheaper. You know, it's only 10 shekel a person. If you take a taxi, it can cost you 150 shekel for the taxi, 75 shekel a person. You want to pay the extra money. So I opened my mouth and I said, let's just do this a fair way. We need a van and we need a taxi. So whatever the total price is, let's split it evenly among the 17 people. And no one heard this. Everyone was rushing in. No one really cared. And it ended up being unfair that the other 2 people had to pay for the taxi. But, you know, that's about being fair. And the reason I think about this is happened last night also with the taxi. You know, it was a big discussion. We were at some relative took us out to eat. and my wife's family, and there's a whole discussion, going back and forth between we needed 6 spaces, but a taxi only has 4 spaces, so someone's gonna have to pay for the two-seater taxi. I said let's just hire two taxis and we'll split the total cost. No one wanted to do that. They wanted to save an extra 10 shekel. But oftentimes people are religious. They don't have a lot of money, so they're not fair with money. They're just not fair with money. And there's people that are secular, not fair with money. They're not fair in general, and So you can be the most religious person. You can learn Torah all day. But I have neighbors like this. Their mom, they're like terrible rishoyim. They're like the worst of the worst when it comes to being fair. They build property, that hurts other people because in Israel you have apartment buildings that are basically right next to each other. It's always a fight for space. People will do terrible things, to tell the government and tell the local municipality to try to get advantages over people so they shouldn't have to pay and they get as much land as they can. It's atrocious. It's sickening to me because I come from a middle income family in America, but there was always a moral sense of me that you have to be a fair person. You can't take advantage of other people. But all of a sudden people don't have money. It's okay to take advantage. People here, they go ahead and they demand apartments. The best yeshivas, the biggest rabbis in Israel, from the best yeshivas, that everyone wants to get to these yeshivas. The Rosh Yeshiva demand apartments. From who? From father-in-laws who have a girl, right? Now, these same boys have sisters, right? That their parents are gonna have to marry them. They put the system because they want to learn for 100 years, so they're not gonna have an apartment. They're not gonna pay for an apartment. Let's demand the apartment. I know personally father-in-laws that suffered physically and emotionally and died, had heart attacks based on this, because they had to raise an enormous, exorbitant amount of money. These people are living kolal families. They don't have money basically to cover their money. They're in debt, and then they marry off a girl, and they have to pay. An apartment here in Israel can cost $600,000, $700,000 for a regular small bedroom, 3-bedroom apartment, 100-meter apartment. It's crazy, but people are just not fair. They want to learn Torah in the name of spirituality, but they're not fair people. And ultimately, that's really what Torah wants. Torah wants you and I see even worse when the aspect of Tov, the author, buys into this narrative that we're supposed to suppress our physical desires as much as possible and only eat, and procreate for the sake of the mitzvahs. No, you're supposed to enjoy your physical characteristics. It doesn't make us animalistic to enjoy eating or to enjoy being together with your wife. This is normal. You're supposed to go after the biggest, the most, enjoyable thing in life. And then he brings it over to, there's different types of animals. Some animals, stud horse will try to mate with as many females as he can. But apparently there's a swan and a loyal emperor penguin that only mate with one person. He says we should be like the loyal emperor and penguin. No, Rabbeinu Gershom made some sort of takana. I don't know why he made this takana. You can only marry one woman, even though the Torah allows polygamy all over the place. Yaakov Avinu did. Everyone did. He's bringing proofs from Yaakov Avinu about Rachel and Leah over here. He forgets to, and then he talks about being monogamous. I mean, come on. Yaakov had 4 wives. He talks about being monogamous. Yaakov loved Rachel so much, but he also married Leah and Bilhah and Zilpah, right? That doesn't bother him. No, man, a Torah recognizes what man's desires are, and Torah wants you to enjoy the world as much as possible. That's why I think there's a big mistake in the world. First of all, Rabbeinu Gershom's takana is over, 1,000 years over. Second of all, it's a big mistake. That's not what the Torah wants. You look in Maseches Yevamos, all over the Shas. It talks about men with multiple wives. This is normal. That's normal. What's in Western society, I don't think is. And when you see it. There's 2 types of men. They're trying to get around this problem. You look all over social media. They say, right? The women want to get married because they want that great man. Because that's all women need. This is really one husband. The Gemara says that, right? Isha lebeit trelo mitzvah. She doesn't get married. You can mekadesh. A man can mekadesh with half of himself, but a woman can't mekadesh half of herself because a woman can only be married to one person. A woman only needs one good man. But a man, even if he has the best wife in the world, he needs other women. And that's why either men cheat on their wives, if they get married, or they don't want to get married because then they have to be maniacal, to be loyal. A good husband's going to be loyal to his wife. He doesn't want to cheat on her. Society does not allow polygamy. So you're faced with two options. Either you just live the life where you don't have a partner, you don't get married, and you don't have stability, which is important in marriage, which is really nice in marriage. You have stability. You have a woman who's always there for you. You have a family, which brings stability, which brings nice things in your life. But then you're limited to one woman. So it's a quandary that modern Western society faces. But the answer, the Torah has the answer. Polygamy is the answer. That's the answer. And it's sad that, where we ignore this basic fact of humanity, a basic desire of people. Hashem doesn't want us to cause pain. The point of the neshama, the spirituality, is not to hurt us as much as possible so that we can barely manage to serve God with whatever physical means is necessary, is available. The least possible physical enjoyment. It's a complete mistake. The Torah wants you to enjoy as much as possible, but it also wants you to be fair with other people, monetarily, and have good manners and etiquette. And that's what Epicureanism is. And the Hebrew word for Epicureanism is Apikores. What? Apikores? That's the worst thing in the world. Well, that's why you have to take a different view of the Gemara. And if you really, you don't, I always say this, you don't go to the Gemara and go to Art Scroll and say this is what the Torah wants. No, you first look at the world, you see what the proper thing, what the normal thing, and figure out yourself, what do you want out of life, what's a fair thing in life, and then you can apply it to the Torah. Then you go back to the Torah and you say, wait a second, Apikores ein lo chelek l'olam haba. Apikores is a terrible person. But then you say, wait, if Apikores I know is a good person, I know from logic that's the right way of living, so what does that mean, Apikores ein lo chelek l'olam haba? It means he doesn't have a part of olam haba. Everyone else gets a portion of olam haba. They're at the stadium, they're the spectators, they're not on the court. But Apikores doesn't have a part of olam haba. He has the entire olam haba. He's the one playing the game on the floor. He's a superstar. He's a celebrity. And that's really the way you got to look at it. I'm not going to go into the details over here because I disagree almost with everything he says over here. He starts to get into intimacy, and he's going to talk about that in the second half of this chapter. So I'll wait to talk about the details of that later on in the week. Hope you enjoyed today's lecture. See you in the next one.